Hello and welcome to Kakaaki, the African Voice on Africa Independent Television. I am Chukwuyenum Onwaka. Now, Tuesday's rain and windstorm, which rocked Abuja and other parts of Nigeria, served as a reminder to Nigerians that the rainy season is around the corner. The prospects of rain come with a mixed bag of expectations and outcomes. The rains are sure to bring about temperatures much cooler than the heat wave we've experienced here in Abuja and other parts of the country. The season is sure to put smiles on the faces of farmers who have long awaited the rains to get their planting season up and running. However, Nigerians also have reasons to be worried. Winds and rain rocked parts of Abuja for a little over an hour on Tuesday and wreaked havoc in parts of the Nigerian capital. Most notable is the newly commissioned and yet to be used bus station at Kubo along the Abuja-Kefi Expressway, which was destroyed by the rainstorm. The flooding that accompanies rainfall annually is also a source of concern as the rains come calling. Climate change-induced rainfall is having a significant impact on Nigeria, with extreme flooding and intensifying rainfall variability become more frequent. In 2024, floods affected over 1 million people, submerged 4.5 million hectares of land, and killed over 1,200 people. Experts warn that Nigeria may experience unusual rainfall patterns and intense heat waves in 2026, which could lead to increased flooding, food production issues, and public health concerns. Now, the imminent arrival of the rains is a wake-up call to the meteorological, climate, and environmental health authorities to act fast and take necessary prevention measures while preparing responses to emergencies that might occur. What are the physical interpretations of the weather predictions? What sort of prevention measures need to be put in place? What sort of emergencies should the authorities prepare for? Has Nigeria learnt anything from its long history of annual devastating flood to avoid facing devastating consequences? These are some of the questions we shall put to retired Air Vice Marshal Akube Iyamu. Air Vice Marshal Iyamu is a consultant on climate change and analyst on environmental policies. He's also the president of the Association of Environmental Protection and Climate Change Practitioners. The first piece of cheering news from the crisis in the Gulf on Wednesday as well, as the US and Iran agreed to take a 2-week conditional ceasefire. The agreement includes Iran's reopening of the critical Strait of Hormuz after intense negotiations. Reports say a few ships have already passed through Hormuz. Concerns have been expressed over reports that Iran will be demanding for tolls and unimpeded access before allowing ships to pass through the vital waterway. Iran, however, warned that ships passing through the strait without permission will be destroyed. Also, news of the deal caused crude oil prices to plunge by around 13% to below $95 per barrel in early trading on Wednesday, marking one of the steepest single-day declines in recent years after weeks of war-driven price spikes. And that's where we'll be hinging our first talking point this Thursday. What does this development mean for the global economy, which has taken a beating from escalating oil prices? What lies in store for Nigerians in all of this, coupled with Dangote Refinery's new crude oil deal, which could and should enable it sell its refined petroleum products much cheaper? These are questions we shall put to our guests. First, a renowned development economist, Professor Ken Ife, who has been keenly following developments in the Gulf and the fallout. A US-based public affairs analyst, Dr. David Kuranga as well. Dr. Kuranga also has his eyes fixed on the war in Iran. All right, it's time for us to bring you the world news on Kakaaki. Do stay with us. This is the world news on Kakaaki, the African Voice. You are welcome. Donald Trump has threatened that Iran's civilization will die tonight, declaring that its 10-point plan was a workable basis for negotiation in Pakistan. The ceasefire, first and foremost, is a response for all those civilians across the Middle East who have been under fire since the United States and Israel went to war against Iran on 28 February. They do not include the people of Lebanon, after insisting that the ceasefire did not apply to Lebanon. Israel launched a huge and deadly wave of airstrikes. The U.S. Vice President, J.D. Vance, described the ceasefire as a fragile truce, that it is a realistic assessment as claims are coming from both sides simultaneously for victory. The U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told journalists at the Pentagon it was a capital V military victory for the United States. Historic and overwhelming. Trump's supporters say that the undeniably serious destruction inflicted on Iran by the U.S. and Israel forced it to negotiate. The president's supporters say his statements were decisive negotiating tactics. His threats included acts that sounded very much as if they could have amounted to war crimes and crimes against humanity. Ships in the Gulf have received a warning from Iran's Navy that any vessel seeking to cross the Strait of Hormuz without permission will be targeted and destroyed. A two-week ceasefire was agreed on Tuesday evening on the condition that safe passage through the narrow waterway is guaranteed. But only a few vessels have since crossed. The shipping brokerage firm SSY said the strait has become a focal point of the U.S.-Israel war with Iran after Tehran effectively choked off one of the world's most important shipping lanes, carrying about a fifth of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas. The disruption over the past 5 weeks has sent shockwaves across the world economy, pushing up energy prices and exposing just how reliant international supply chains are on the strait, which is only about 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. As well as energy, the Gulf is also vital for transporting chemicals needed to process products like microchips, pharmaceuticals, and fertilizer. While the price of oil has fallen on the news of the ceasefire, shipping analysts are warning to expect only a trickle of crossings for now. By 14 BST on April 8, just 3 bulk carriers, NJ Earth, Daytona Beach, and Hai Long 1 had passed through the strait since the ceasefire was announced on Tuesday night. That compares to 138 ships that passed through the strait each day on average before the conflict started on 28 February. Israel has carried out large waves of airstrikes across Lebanon, which killed and wounded hundreds of people, while officials say the war against the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah continues despite a ceasefire in Iran. Israel described it as the largest wave of airstrikes in this conflict, hitting more than 100 of what it called Hezbollah command centers and military sites in 10 minutes. The southern suburbs of Beirut, southern Lebanon, and the eastern Bekaa Valley were all targeted. The Lebanese Health Ministry said at least 112 people had been killed and more than 830 wounded. At the site of the largest airstrike on Beirut, hours later, emergency workers were still searching the damaged buildings, found amid the rubble glimpses of interrupted lives, pictures of smiling families, pieces of clothing, school homework that was left unfinished. Abdelkader Mahfouz was visiting his brother, who had been wounded. The attacks happened after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office denied the assertion by Pakistan, which had mediated the deal between the U.S. and Iran, that the ceasefire covered the conflict in Lebanon. A decades-long saga came to an end in a Suffolk County courtroom as a 6'4" man dressed in a black suit and blue tie stood across from a judge and confessed to the gruesome details of murdering 8 women. Rex Herman appeared expressionless as he confirmed to Judge Timothy Mazey that he had strangled and bound them each in the same manner before dropping their remains along Long Island's remote beaches. He answered mostly yes to each of the judge's questions about his crimes, not looking back at the courtroom packed with victims' family members, some of whom still stifled cries. The families of the women had waited for over a decade as it took years for investigators to solve the murders that had haunted many Long Islanders. Those theories ended in 2023 when police arrested Herman, a married father of 2 living in Massapequa Park. a quiet Long Island suburb in a run-down house where he spent his childhood. The 62-year-old architect was arrested by Suffolk County Police, who swarmed his Midtown Manhattan office after tying him to the murders with DNA from a pizza box. Herman was first charged in the murders of 7 women, but on Wednesday, he pleaded guilty to an additional killing in 1996. Though many of his victims were missing for years, the case came to light in 2010 when investigators found 4 sets of remains within a quarter mile of each other on Gilgo Beach. A Los Angeles woman dubbed the ketamine queen has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for selling drugs that led to the death of friend actor Matthew Perry. Jasmine Sanga, 42, pleaded guilty last September to 5 charges, including 1 count of distributing ketamine resulting in death or bodily injury, as prosecutors described the American-British dual national's home as a drug-selling emporium that funded a lavish lifestyle. Perry, who had struggled with addiction for years, was found dead in the hot tub of his Los Angeles home in October 2023. Investigators determined his death was caused by the acute effects of ketamine. She is a dissociative anesthetic that has some hallucinogenic effects and is supposed to be administered only by a physician. Ahead of Sanga's sentencing, Perry's stepmother, Debbie Perry, asked the judge to hand the maximum possible prison sentence. Sanga caused irreversible damage, Debbie Perry said in a victim impact statement submitted to the California court on Tuesday. Federal authorities found dozens of ketamine vials during a raid at Sanga's Los Angeles home and accused her of supplying the injectable drug from her stash house in North Hollywood since at least 2019. Thousands of pills that included methamphetamine, cocaine, and Xanax were also found. Sanga initially denied the charges but agreed to change her plea in August, just weeks before her trial was scheduled to begin. It appears the Turaki-led People's Democratic Party are making move to join the David Mark-led African Democratic Congress, ADC, as they held a 2-hour closed-door meeting in Abuja on Wednesday. The meeting was held at the national chairman's residence. Gathered that meeting took place shortly after the ADC leaders held a protest at the national headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC.
We're on a solidarity visit. We've seen what has been happening within the political space, the court, and the protest today. So we came to show solidarity, to commit to a clean, democratic space in our country.
The opposition leaders at the meeting hosted by Mark included former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former LP presidential candidate Peter Obi, and former Kano State Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso. The former Transportation Minister Rotimi Amechi, former Interior Minister Rauf Aregbesola, former Justice Minister Abubakar Malami, former Cross River State Governor Liel Imoke, former Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwal. Others are former Information Minister Professor Jerry Gana, a former Niger State Governor Babangida Aliyu, and a former Deputy National Chairman of the PDP, Taofik Arakpaja, was in the Makinde-led delegation. Earlier, AIT had gathered that Nafiu Bala, Sheyi, Makinde, and others were expecting to be part of the meeting, but Bala was conspicuously absent. When AIT reached out to Nafiu Bala's camp for confirmation, the group said they aren't aware of any meeting with the David Mark and the National Working Committee. Prominent leaders of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, have staged a protest at the INEC headquarters in Abuja, as this comes amid this leadership crisis rocking the opposition coalition, which the movement has blamed on INEC's recent decision not to recognize the David Mark-led NWC. AIC's Funke Ogulolu reports that the delegation is demanding an end to what they call a push toward a one-party state.
These things, you will be able to take us to the promised land. I assure you of that.
Fresh off his 78th birthday celebrations, Senator David Mark swapped these festivities at his residence for the streets of Abuja, leading a massive crowd towards Independent National Electoral Commission's headquarters. testified as Senator David Mark, Atiku Abubakar, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, and Rotimi Amici arrived to personally deliver their petition. The core demand is simple, that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, must recognize the Senator David Mark-led National Working Committee. Harsh Occupy INEC. The movement accuses the Commission of partisan bias and alleges a conspiracy with the ruling party, APC, to stifle opposition voices. Funke Ogunlulu, AIT News Abuja.
The leadership crisis in the Social Democratic Party has taken a decisive turn as the Court of Appeal has set aside a lower court ruling recognizing Sadiq Abubakar Gombe as national chairman and reaffirmed that party leadership disputes are internal matters beyond the jurisdiction of the courts. In a judgment delivered in Abuja, the appellate court described the lower court's decision as perverse and lacking evidential basis, stressing that courts cannot arbitrate internal party leadership tussles. The court also invalidated the party's November 2025 primary in Ado-Ekiti, ruling that it violated the Electoral Act by being conducted outside an approved venue, and noted that the appellant lacked the legal standing to challenge the process. The ruling leaves the SDP grappling with unresolved leadership issues and fresh uncertainty ahead of future elections, even as stakeholders see it as an opportunity to reset and restore internal order. A coalition of youth groups is urging former President Goodluck Jonathan to contest the 2027 presidential election, citing his experience and democratic credentials as critical to addressing Nigeria's current economic and governance challenges. The call was made in Abuja by the group, which says the next election offers Nigerians an opportunity to reassess leadership choices and demand inclusive, stable governance.
The coalition said members of the group believe Jonathan remains well-placed to contribute to national leadership. According to them, the former president's time in office and leadership style continue to resonate with many Nigerians who are concerned about the country's current economic and governance challenges.
He has ruled this country for 4 years, 4 good years, his own term. And his achievements are still there for us to see. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan is a confirmed replacement for the present messy situation we are facing in the country.
They described Jonathan as a seasoned Democrat with a track record that, in the group's view, deserves to rescue Nigerians from bad governance.
People are voting for him, especially the North. I am from the northern part of the country, far northwest. We know what we are facing. We have banditry, we have Lakurawa, and so on. The area was destabilized. We have no politician that can restore this country better than him.
If I would turn my face to this tumult crowd behind to ask, when was Nigeria safer? You will hear that a very loud and outstanding sound that Nigeria was safer during Goodluck Ebele Jonathan.
The group maintained that the 2027 general election presents an opportunity for Nigerians to reflect on leadership choices. Dimas Nanzung, AIT News, Abuja.
Ogun State police have rescued 9 foreign nationals and arrested 2 suspects, Stephen Kwame and Abubakar Suleiman, over a transnational fraud scheme in Owode Egba. Police say the operation, carried out on April 6, 2026, followed Interpol intelligence, leading to the rescue of a Ghanaian victim, MacLeod Owosu, and 8 others who were held and exploited after being lured to Nigeria with false promises of travel to Europe. Victims were confined and used to extort money from relatives, with one losing 31,000 Ghana cedis. The suspects are in custody. Investigations are ongoing to arrest other syndicate members, while rescued victims are receiving care and will be reunited with their families. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, University of Jos Branch, has withdrawn services over the non-payment of March 2026 salaries. In a statement by branch chairperson, Professor Jobe Joseph Molwus, members have been directed to boycott lectures, examinations, and meetings from April 8, 2026, in line with NEC and Congress resolutions. ASU blamed the delay on the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, despite the university completing its payment process, and warned the strike will continue until salaries are paid, with a monitoring team enforcing compliance. Concerns over weak patient feedback systems and accountability gaps in public health facilities have prompted the Niger State Ministry of Health to reactive patient information and complaints offices across over 1,000 facilities in all 25 local government areas. The initiative is aimed at providing a structured platform for patients to seek information, lodge complaints, and contribute to improved healthcare services delivery across the state. AIT's Zachary Omale reports that the move is in commemoration of this year's World Health Day.
The 2026 World Health Day commemoration was more than just a celebration in Niger State. It was a day to emphasize the need for the government and citizens to prioritize their health. The day was led by the Commissioner for Health, Murtala Bagana, who led hundreds of health workers, students and other civil servants on a 3-hour walk within the major roads in the Mina metropolis, creating awareness on the need to take our health seriously. He also used the medium to announce the reactivation of the patient's information and complaints offices, as well as other policies aimed at using science to ensure good service delivery.
PICO, therefore, will not only enhance responsiveness and public trust, it will also help us institutionalize a continuous quality improvement, strengthen professionalism, accountability, and ensure that patient feedback directly informs healthcare planning, policy, and service delivery across the state.
While flagging off the medical outreach as part of activities for the day, Bagana also assured a robust, science-based approach to dealing with disease outbreaks and emergency responses. The theme for the 2026 World Health Day is Together for Health, Stand with Science. Zachary Omale, AIT News, Mina.
That is the world news on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Up next is Kakaaki Business. To stay with us.
Welcome to Kakaaki Business. I am Landry Babalola. Global oil markets have been shaken by a high-stakes speculative move ahead of a major geopolitical announcement. Investors placed an estimated $950 million bet on falling oil prices just hours before the United States and Iran announced a ceasefire, signaling strategic positioning in anticipation of market-moving developments. Trading data shows that about 8,600 lots of Brent and U.S. crude futures were sold in a single transaction, an unusually large move in a market where traders are typically broken into smaller volumes. Shortly after, crude prices plunged by roughly 15%, dropping below $100 per barrel at the start of the next trading session, reflecting immediate market reaction to easing tensions. Market analysts say while large trades are common for hedging, the scale and timing of these positions suggest heightened sensitivity of geopolitical signals. A similar pattern was observed earlier when traders placed a $500 million bet ahead of delayed military action announcement, also triggering a sharp price drop. Meanwhile, trading volumes have surged to record highs in recent weeks, highlighting increased volatility in global oil market driven by geopolitical uncertainties. And Venezuelan oil sector continues to struggle with operational setback despite effort to revive output. Venezuela's refining network is currently operating at just 31% of its installed capacity as the state oil company faces ongoing technical and infrastructure challenges. Workers report that crude processing stands at about 399,000 barrels per day, reflecting a decline from earlier performance level at the country's largest refining complex. Only a limited number of processing units are operational, significantly constraining fuel production. Efforts to restart refining units have been hampered by unstable power supply, equipment failures, and need for major maintenance work. Despite increased crude production and export under recent agreements, refining inefficiencies continue to limit domestic fuel availability. Expert warns that without sustained investment and repairs, Venezuela risks recurring fuel shortages, even as it attempts to stabilize its oil sector. And into finance. Major U.S. banks are expected to post stronger earnings, but global tensions are casting shadows over future performance. Top American banks are set to report higher first quarter profit, supported by strong interest income and a rebound in investment banking activities. A surge in mergers and acquisitions has boosted deal-making revenue, with several high-value transactions recorded during the quarter. However, analysts warn that geopolitical tensions, particularly in the Middle East, are increasing uncertainty in financial markets. Bank executives have raised concerns that prolonged conflict could trigger oil price shock, sustain inflation, and lead to higher interest rates. Trading activities has remained strong amid market volatility, but other segments, such as mortgage lending and wealth management, may face slower growth. Investors are now focusing on forward guidance as banks outline strategies to navigate a complex and uncertain global economic environment. Global banks are revising expectations for China's monetary policy amid shifting economic signal. Major international banks now expect China to keep its benchmark interest rate unchanged this year, reversing earlier forecasts for rate cuts. The adjustment reflects growing confidence in China's economic resilience, despite global uncertainties linked to geopolitical tensions. Recent data suggests improved industrial activity and stable growth momentum, reducing the need for immediate monetary easing. Unlike many economies facing rising inflation, China continues to experience relatively low price pressure, allowing policymakers greater flexibility. Authorities are expected to maintain a moderately loose policy stance while using targeted tools such as reserve requirement adjustment to support liquidity. Analysts say China's cautious approach highlights its efforts to balance economic stability with long-term growth objectives. And in Nigeria's corporate tax revenue has recorded significant quarterly decline, reflecting short-term economic shifts. Company income tax collection fell sharply by nearly 50% in the fourth quarter of 2025, dropping to 1.49 trillion naira from 2.96 trillion naira in the previous quarter. According to data from the National Bureau of Statistics, the decline reflects seasonal trends and evolving macroeconomic conditions affecting corporate earnings. Despite the quarterly drop, tax collection increased by over 13% compared to the same period in 2024, indicating longer-term resilience. Sectoral contributions were led by financial service, manufacturing and mining, while hospitality and household services recorded the steepest decline. Analysts say fluctuations in business performance and policy changes may have influenced the slowdown in revenue during the period. They add that ongoing tax reform and improved compliance measures could help stabilize collection and strengthen government revenue going forward. Nigeria's largest refinery is maintaining fuel price stability despite global market pressure. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery has kept its petrol price unchanged at 1,200 naira per litre amid ongoing volatility in global oil markets. The refinery says the decision is aimed at ensuring supply stability and protecting consumers from sudden price increases. This comes as global crude prices remain sensitive to geopolitical tensions, particularly in the Middle East. Industry analysts know that improved domestic refining capacity has helped cushion the impact of external shocks of Nigeria's fuel market. There are also reports of increased demand from other African countries seeking alternative fuel supply sources. Experts say the refinery pricing strategy is playing a key role in stabilizing the domestic energy market and enhancing regional supply security. Nigeria is ramping up efforts to strengthen its non-oil export drive with the formal inauguration of the governing board of Nigeria Commodity Exchange. The move is aimed at formalizing commodity trade, improving traceability, and positioning the country to take full advantage of opportunities under the African Continental Free Trade Area. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Jumoke Oduwole, at the inauguration on Wednesday, tasked the newly constituted board with establishing a strong governance framework to support a food secure and investment-ready economy.
We have to increase our non-oil exports. The ministry has about 7 priority crops that we have to export. We've signed that agreement with Afrexim Bank, and because this particular assignment is so pivotal to food security, to food sovereignty, to non-oil exports, to job creation, to rural prosperity, it's so pivotal, and it touches every geopolitical zone, particularly our rural areas. it was imperative that we looked for a board like this.
With access to markets of about 1.4 billion people under the African Continental Free Trade Area, the Commodity Exchange is expected to serve as key platform for expanding trade and enhancing export competitiveness.
Our objectives are clear. Provide a transparent and efficient platform for the trading in agricultural and solid minerals commodities. Promote orderly marketing, facilitate price discovery, and support food security for economic development.
We'll now push forward, set up the governance framework, and make sure that we have an NCX that is secure, driven by integrity, and is positioned to scale, and bring prosperity to smallholder farmers and artisanal miners.
Development is seen as a major boost for food security, industrialization, and increased foreign exchange earnings from non-oil export. However, concerns remains that a large share of Nigerian commodity trade is still conducted informally, with export frequently facing rejection in international markets due to weak traceability system. The Central Bank of Nigeria is stepping up efforts to address a major finance gap affecting small businesses. The Central Bank of Nigeria says it plans to recapitalize and restructure development finance institutions to bridge a 130 trillion naira funding gaps for MSME. Officials say its current institution has a combined asset base of just over 8 trillion naira, far below the level needed to support business growth. The proposed reform will focus on improving governance, risk management, and making this institution more attractive to investors. The initiative is expected to complement recent banking sector recapitalization, which has strengthened lending capacity across the financial system. The proposed reform will focus on improving governance, risk management, and making this institution more attractive to investors. The initiative is expected to complement recent banking sector recapitalization, which has strengthened lending capacity across the financial system. Authorities emphasize that credit allocation will remain market-driven, allowing banks to assess risk independently. The Apex Bank believes that stronger institutions, improved access to finance, will help unlock growth potential and support economic development. And that's it on Kakaaki Business. Good morning.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed Kakaaki Business there from Larry Babalola. And now it's time for us to bring you our special reports for today. And I'm telling you that we have a whole lot in store for you. Our first report is on environmental health. Now, there are growing concerns, among environmental health experts of pesticide resistance to disease control and public health. At a recent environmental health management training, stakeholders emphasized the need for sustainable pest control strategies and increased public awareness of hygiene practices. Here's the report.
Across communities, the persistent use of chemical pesticides is gradually losing its effectiveness as pests develop resistance and continue to thrive, spreading harmful viruses and bacteria. The training aims at adopting alternative and sustainable pest control strategies to address this growing challenge.
So what you see is just few on site. We have a lot of them online. So that's why we have this collaboration with government agencies to make sure that we raise the awareness and also to train our partners to provide effective pest management.
For us to live healthy, we have to make our environment healthy as well. So we have to clean our environment, tidy it up, because most of the pests that are disturbing us, they are not inevitable.
They noted that maintaining self-cleanliness and environmental hygiene is a critical first step in breaking the cycle of pest infestation and disease transmission.
It is very important that government pay more attention to this subject. Pest control in Nigeria, especially the public health vectors like mosquitoes, is largely in the hands of the individuals. But the individuals can only work in their small space.
Training that we're participating in is supposed to help us understand some of the methods that we can use to treat our customers' properties.
As pesticide resistance continues to rise, experts say a combined effort involving individuals, communities, and governments is essential to ensure safer and healthier environments. Unekwajo Atta, AIT News, Abuja.
Welcome back from that report on environmental health. And, health is wealth, as they always say. Now, to our next report. This is on Nigeria intensifying its push for a unified African gas market as regional leaders and stakeholders gather to tackle the continent's energy deficit. This latest strategic move, rooted in the Decade of Gas initiative, aims to synchronize policies and fast-track infrastructure development across borders to unlock Africa's massive energy reserves. AIT's Amarachi Amushe reports.
The crisis of the Middle East has made the world to turn its attention once again to Africa's gas resources. Nigeria's proven gas reserves is estimated to be Africa's largest. At this Decade of Gas Ministerial Roundtable, held in partnership with the World Bank, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Gas, Ekperikpe Ekpo, made a clarion call for total regional synergy. He argued that without harmonized policies and shared infrastructure, the dream of an integrated continental gas market remains out of reach.
You can agree with me that Africa's energy future will not be determined by abundance of resources, but by our ability to act together. We hold over 600 trillion cubic feet of proven natural gas reserves.
The World Bank is backing the move. Representing Country Director Matthew Vegas, Justin Beluken, pointed out the irony of West African nations struggling with electricity despite sitting on vast gas supplies. He's asking for a removal of supply constraints to power the region.
For the World Bank Group, this agenda is closely aligned with our Mission 300, which aims to accelerate access to electricity for more than 300 million people in sub-Saharan Africa by 2030. Achieving this objective will require not only investment, but also stronger regional integration and coordinated action across countries.
Regulators are fine-tuning the blueprint. NMDPRA Chief Saidu Mohammed advocated for cross-border systems, while NUPRC's Orisemuyiwa Enson called for rapid commercialization to ensure the Decade of Gas delivers more than just talk.
I wish to reiterate our firm commitment to effective collaboration with all stakeholders, and we take the necessary steps required to advance gas development within the region and the continent at large.
We are committed to ensuring that gas plays its rightful role in powering industries, supporting energy transition, and strengthening economic stability.
As the summit concludes, the consensus is firm, and it is that Nigeria is no longer just looking inward, but is positioned to lead a collaborative energy revolution across Africa. Amarachi Amushe, AIT News, Lagos.
And yes, as we all know that Africa is growing, and Nigeria is on the forefront there with that special report, and hopefully we can see, its surface and benefit the entire Africa. Now to a bit of security reports right now. 35 worshippers remain missing after armed bandits struck in Ariko village in Kachia local government area of Kaduna State on Easter Sunday services. 5 were killed in that twin church attack, turning a religious celebration into mourning, and residents remain in shock when AIT News visited the village.
Panic and grief have gripped the Ariko community following the early morning raid. Assailants reportedly arriving in large numbers on motorcycles surrounded the churches during worship, firing machine guns indiscriminately and even stealing church offerings before retreating into the bush with their captives. While initial local reports placed the death toll higher, official sources have confirmed 5 fatalities, including local residents identified as Aminu Shoba and Waziri Agunu.
Around that 8 o'clock in the morning, we are doing service, I see somebody come outside and stand near our church like he want to enter. We now pass 2 minutes again, we see them with motorcycle, plenty of them. So they began to follow people, began to kill people.
They killed 5 people, and they carried 35 people.
Up to today that I'm talking to you, nobody rescued. All of them are yet to come back.
My elder brother last year, December, was killed by the same bandit when he went to farm during the harvest period. And now he's not up to a year and 6 months. Our father is equally killed.
The brutality of the attack has triggered an immediate intervention from the highest levels of the Nigeria Police Force. Acting on the orders of IGP Olatunji Diso, the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of operations, Shehu Umar Nadada, has relocated to Kaduna to lead an on-ground assessment and coordinate rescue missions. DIG Nadada, alongside the GOC-1 Division, Major General Abubakar Wase, visited the affected community to commiserate with families and reinforce security presence in the southern Kaduna axis.
The message to the community members is they should be rest assured that the police and other security agencies are doing something to ensure that there is peace in these communities.
However, the aftermath has been clouded by conflicting reports. While the Nigerian army initially claimed that troops had rescued 31 hostages, both the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, and local community leaders have disputed this figure, insisting that many victims remain in captivity. The police later clarified that 7 persons have been successfully rescued so far and are receiving treatment at Qatari Hospital. As security forces continue to scour the forest, residents are calling for more than just temporary visits, demanding permanent protection for rural worship centers to prevent a recurrence of this Easter massacre.
And welcome back from that special report, and we're hoping for normalcy to resume across the country, security-wise. Now it's time for us to bring you our social intervention corner, and at the top of the hour, it's time for us to take a look at the papers. Do stay with us.
To Get Fit in 60 Seconds with Dolly Phillips. Now, everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Hey! Am I happy to see you this morning? Of course. Are you ready for me? Yes! Dolly again, and today's workout is so nice and simple. 2 half jacks, 2 full jacks. Hey, 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 hey. Now, if you can't do the full jack, just continue with the half jacks. But make sure you push those hands up. All right? Are you ready? Your time starts now. Let's go. 1, 2, half. That's it. Hey. Come on, have fun with this one. Yes. Come on. 1, 2. Now, remember, if you can't do both, stay on the easy option. All right, 1, 2, 1, 2. But me, I can, so I'm moving back to the top part. Let's go! And that's it. 2 halves and 2 fulls. Come on, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Coming down to 20 seconds left. Who's the soldier? Push this body. Come on. You can achieve anything as long as you put your mind to it. Let's get this mind and body fit this morning, or this evening, or this afternoon. 3, 2, 1, and time. Woo! Well done. I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye.
Hello, great
great people of Nigeria.
Have you ever wondered why you feel embarrassed that your child or your student is not like the other kids? Well, I totally understand the feeling of worry. Sometimes you feel you had a solution to helping your child or student overcome stammering, dyslexia, Down syndrome, and so on. Well, I remember stammering as a young child, and I could not even pronounce my name. But today, with the help of my parents and teachers, here I am. As a parent or teacher, you must believe in your child or your student. Give the child the opportunity to express him or herself and be patient to listen. Discourage laughing or mocking the child. You would be demoralizing the child or student if you do. And guess what? Everyone on the surface of the earth has a unique skill or talent. Do not overlook it. Make sure you discover the skill in that child and help to make it flourish. If a child cannot communicate effectively, teach the child to be patient and to choose his or her words carefully before speaking. When an impaired child or student realizes that you truly care, he or she would rest assured that he or she is not alone, and you may just be that child's motivation to be who he or she wants to be, confident and smart. Honestly, that's my 2 kobo.
The issues as they break. The
The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy.
And our government seem to be incapable of protecting the scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go. Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe it was for that reason in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. Focus Nigeria. It's a huge task, but we take it on.
Where is the law? National Assembly is not doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria. It is America that is doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria.
Monday to Friday on Focus Nigeria, we identify the nagging issues.
So people put people in poverty deliberately, deliberate misplacement of priorities, and brought people on their knees to suffer.
We seek answers to the tough challenges.
And because of the former president, what I know is that he has not turned his membership card. Has not been attending your meeting.
Leave that to us to deal with.
There's no shying away from the issues.
The system is held accountable. The leaders are accountable for the funds, for the resources that they manage.
No sitting on the fence.
The same thing that made you live where you are may confront you.
Focus Nigeria, 10 a.m., Monday to Friday on AIT.
Welcome back, and you're still watching Kakaaki, the African Voice on Africa Independent Television. And it's that time for us to take a look at what the papers are saying. I'll not be doing this alone. I have Chuks Akuna and Chizoba Ogbeche joining me here in the studio. Good morning, lady and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling me a lady, not gentlemen of the press.
All right, great to have you this morning. Let's start off with the front page of the Daily Asset, and we have Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, others lead ADC protests over derecognition. Electoral body undermines democracy, says opposition leaders. That's on page 2 of the Daily Asset. The Daily Whistler is up next. We have opposition revolt. ADC allies confront INEC amid deepening crisis. Protesters demand INEC chair sack over alleged bias. Makinde, PDP bloc open talks with Atiku, Obi, others. Page 8 of the Whistler. To the New Telegraph, we have Occupy INEC, Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, others join ADC rally over INEC's decisions. Pages 3 and 6 of the New Telegraph covers that. And it goes on to read, 2027 ADC PDP leaders meet, may forge alliance. That's an interesting one there. Now, to the Daily Sun, we have ADC, Mark, Atiku, Obi, others protest at INEC, insists on Amupiton's sack. Page 6 of the Daily Sun. To the Daily Monitor now. ADC protests INEC's derecognition of Mark's leadership, says interpretation of court judgments exclusive preserve of judiciary, not that of INEC chairman. And that's the front page of the Daily Monitor, as we also have Turaki Wike-led PDP factions clash over visits to ADC. Now to the Standard Times, 2027, Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso lead ADC talk with PDP. Starts on the front page and continues on page 2 of the Standard Times. Now, away from the Standard Times, we have the Leadership newspaper. Derecognition of ADC leaders, scores of protesters led by Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso submit petition to INEC, demand reversal of INEC's decision, and Mopetan's resignation. Page 4. Now to the Vanguard newspaper, we have ADC lists 6 points demands at INEC protests. Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, others lead protests in Abuja. Don't kill democracy. Obi, Amechi reject one-party rule. Page 5 of the Vanguard. To the Observer's Times, we have Save Our Democracy. ADC supporters storm Abuja as Obi, Atiku, Kwankwaso join protest. Liowata pleads with Shekaru to join APC as party woos northern voters. Page 1 of the Observer's Times. We have Al Jazeera, Nigeria. CSOs to Jonathan. Nigerians need you again. Urge GEJ to rescue Nigeria in 2027. Conduct 6 months consultations to woo Jonathan. That's the front page of Al Jazeera, Nigeria. Now to the Daily Global. 2027, you must contest. Nigerian youths, CSOs tell ex-president Jonathan. That's the bold story there from the Daily Global. Now to the Daily Trust. 2027, ADC, PDP close ranks. Starts on the front page, continues on page 3 and 4, with pictures of the protest yesterday here in the FCT. Now to the Guardian newspaper. Opposition explores options as ADC, PDP question INEC's neutrality. Page 6 of the Guardian newspaper there. And now to this Nigeria, we have, again, court sentences 4 terrorists to life imprisonment, convicts 14 others as FG reiterates commitment to battle insecurity. Page 15, and that's the major story, the headline there from this Nigeria. Now to the Nigerian pilots, we have terrorism trial. Court sentences 4 members of Boko Haram terrorist group to life imprisonment, convicts 14 others to prison terms ranging from 20 to 25 years on multiple counts. Now, away from the Nigerian pilots, we have the Blueprint newspaper. FG to critics, Nigeria remains resilient, stable, not on the brink of collapse. Moment of reforms requires discipline, patience, patriotism from Idris and Tanimu there, starting on the front page and continuing on page 8 of the Blueprint. To the Authority newspaper, Group to Senate, SGF, illegally appointed investment tribunal chair, says only president can appoint CEO. That starts on the front page of the Authority newspaper. And out to the Nigerian News Direct, we have consumers failed to pay over 63 billion naira to discos in January. That's from NEC on page 13. Nigerian News Direct there. And we have the Business NG next. And it reads, May 1st deadline. Concerns mount among bank customers over new CBN BVN rule. Starts on the front page and continues on page 2. And those are the papers this morning. Now, coming to our review, as we start off with the first talking point this morning from the Daily Asset, Whistler, New Telegraph, and the Daily Sun, which reads, Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, others lead ADC protests over the registration. And this is one that has been on, for a long time, but they took to the streets yesterday against INEC. So what do you make of that? Let's start off with Chizoba.
It's within their rights to protest or rally. They are seeking, what they are seeking actually does not mean that they will get it. But expectedly, INEC will reconsider its stance. Just like most senior lawyers have said that truly it's not within the rights of INEC to interpret court judgment. Rather, they should go back to the court to seek interpretation. Just like ADC 2 needs to go back to court to also seek clarity. And we have to understand that all this is based on the ambiguity of the judgment or deliberate decision to misinterpret it, but it's good for the court to give a clear declaration. But aside that, ADC also needs to make efforts to put his house in order, because it cannot be the situation of you're patching and it's leaking from another angle. Fine, Kwakwanso is said to be reaching out to Gombe, Nafiu Gombe, to bring him back to the fold, which is what they should do. But there is also the case of Kachukwu and previously 5 chairmen and now 6. It's also good to reach out to them because at the end of the day, even the Supreme Court has said that leadership is an internal party issue. So they should, if they can put the house in order, maybe INEC and the courts will not have anything as long as they keep, maybe tomorrow, but all the same, within the party, they need to resolve their problem and seek a way forward. And the window is closing fast for them to do this. So besides just asking the INEC chairman should resign or be removed, which is not likely to happen, they should look inwards and try to resolve some of their issues. And I think Kachukwu was actually expelled at some point. So you now begin to ask, how do they enforce? A lot of parties that even in PDP, they had a similar issue where you don't know, you don't clearly define what is anti-party, who has the right to expel or suspend, and the enforcement. The parties need to put their house, as I said earlier, in order to forge ahead. Because if they continue like this, probably the courts might speak in their favor, but in the event that the court does not, and they're insisting that they are moving on with their convention, so who knows how it will pan out. I hope they will not have a situation of Zamfara, when at the end of the day it was wasted effort. Or we've even seen what recently happened in Ibadan with the Oyo State-led faction of the PDP. I hope that they put their ass in order and quickly too.
All right, now, Chuks, going by what Chizoba has spoken about, now we're looking at the courts first off, not giving a very clear, judgment. She mentioned earlier how it's supposed to be an internal, affair. Shouldn't the court have just stated that, clearly from the beginning that, no, this is not what we're going to be ruling out on, and just thrown out the case and said it's an internal affair and go sort it, instead of giving us open-ended, statements?
You see, to begin with, most persons who were there yesterday at the protest ground were also there in 2013 when President Goodluck Jonathan was president. And I remember most of them saying worse things about Jega, Jega, who was then the INEC chairman. In fact, and at the time, it was the same APC. The party had just been newly formed, and then there was a governorship election in Anambra State. And the outgoing governor at the time was Peter Obi, who ironically was there yesterday. APC contested, ABGA contested, Labour Party contested, and of course, ABGA won with a landslide, and they rejected the results. And on the basis of that, they led a protest to INEC and said that INEC had compromised. So what am I saying? Yesterday, when I saw the protest yesterday, I chuckled because for me it was like role reversal. And El-Rufai, just before the last presidential elections, El-Rufai even went to come up with a tale, with a story, that in that same this same election, when Peter Obi was governor, that Peter Obi not only arrested him, but detained him, just to paint Peter Obi black before the electorate in his part of the country. That said, I don't know why the coalition didn't learn from APC. APC, I'm not blaming them for whatever it is, but you see, APC, when they tried to wrest power from PDP, they couldn't. What did they do? 2 clear years before the 2015 election, APC, was formed as a fresh political party. They took off from scratch. And maybe that was why nobody was able to actually interfere in what they're doing. But then you have the ADC. a party where one man was the national chairman for how many years? 20 years. 20 or more years, you understand? You never knew like I said, if you're a car dealer, for those who are experienced in buying cars, when you import cars and there's any scratch, they don't bother painting it because they want you to see it as it is. So without very sound knowledge of what was going on in ADC, they went and assumed ownership of ADC, or they went and subsumed themselves, or I don't know how to put it now. And this is the problem now. Because you see, if you started something, be able to say, okay, this is what happened, this isn't what happened. Arewa Shola, National Secretary, came from APC. David Mark, National Chairman, came from PDP. So several interest groups. You don't know the alliances of those of the party leadership, of the members of the party leadership who are there. Like Chizoma said, I don't see why they could not, settle this matter internally, because there's nobody who cannot be spoken to. Look at just last night, we saw proving critics wrong. A man who said he was going to obliterate everything in Iran. What did he say? He had a change of heart. So it's very interesting, because this, as the days go by, as the weeks go by, when we see more interesting things. Just yesterday, somebody came and claimed that she's now the one woman came from nowhere and claimed that she's the new national chairman of, she's the authentic national chairman of APC, and she was going to go to court. It's a season of politics. APC. It's a season of politics, and nothing should be unexpected, if you ask me.
Okay, just to
But sorry, if I may come in, just the way ADC practically started, the way ADC started, is like a coalition of different parties. So it wasn't actually a fresh party. And these people tried to register a party, ADA.
Yeah, I was going to come to that.
It was a delay in the registration and the timeline for elections that made it. And it's not as if they actually did not try to settle. And they actually lent credence to it last week, because some people felt probably they were not well taken care of, or were not properly accommodated. Yeah. But that could also be addressed. Like the Gombe, he could be given an opportunity to run for office.
It's a human being.
They must find a way. But you also, as the chairman that are insisting, if they were with Ralph Wosu, it means that their own tenure has also expired, because they were saying Ralph Wosu's tenure expired in 2022. So if you were in the same administration with him, how can you be laying claims to the office? So there are a lot of contradictions.
Okay. Now, to another one from the Daily Trust, 2027. ADC, PDP close ranks. Even though the PDP is not the entire party, we've seen is the faction of the Sheyi Makinde's, Turaki, and co. But does that give any signal as to these individuals moving to the ADC, or it's just, oh, we're still in the PDP, but we're going to work with you, or we're just here to support you, morally for the, issues that you're facing as a party right now?
They actually said it was a consolation, a solidarity visit. Yeah. So the details of the visit was not very known. But it's funny that the other part of PDP is throwing a tantrum, because they are openly aligning with the APC. So they should also give room for this other part to seek where they will align. And they seem to have the upper hand. But the issue is, do they have the time? Do they have the vehicle, a political party, a legible political party that they can use for this? Because like I said earlier, the time is closing, the space or they have is closing up. But it's a good thing. Chooks already said that APC started, it was a coalition of parties. So if a part of PDP and ADC could work together, and Nigerians are actually bothered about the issue of having a one-party state. So if it's possible to have a credible opposition, I think most Nigerians will support it. And that's probably why a lot of people join in the protest. I know Chooks was asking who are the civil society people.
No.
Before we get to that story.
Thing.
Okay.
I say probably that's why people were willing to join, because for them, a lot of people see ADC now as the main opposition party. Because PDP, that was like where they were falling back on, has openly identified with APC. So if you have a political party that is aligning with a ruling party, that cannot be an opposition party. So I'm saying that, but how practicable is this? That is just the question.
Now, looking at that meeting yesterday, because before there were rumors that the likes of Atiku Abubakar and Seyi Makinde, met closed door, and promises were made and whatever, going into the 2027 elections. Is this also giving credence to that as well?
Yes, but before that, we should also be clear about one thing. Seyi Makinde and Bala Mohammed, they are outgoing governors. They're serving out their second term. So they're going to be very, very concerned with what producing their successor. Producing their successors is going to be priority for them, not who becomes president. Okay. Because whoever becomes president may not directly impact them than who becomes their successor. Because no governor wants his political opponent, quote and unquote, to succeed him. Okay. Every governor wants to produce a successor. Then, at least in the first instance, then if thereafter the person decides to fall out, that's a different ballgame. So, but, it's very interesting because, like, I've covered policies for a considerable number of years, and I'm going to tell you that, the next 24 hours could mean a lot in politics. Even an hour mean a lot in politics. Like before now, several persons who criticized people like Wike at the time, who said that Wike was doing anti-party and all those things. We didn't know that they were actually hobnobbing with APC until they decided to, come out of hiding and to say that they are declaring for even a state like I think the most surprising was Taraba State. So that said, politicians, there's no telling what politicians can do. And even for those who you think are not openly opposing President Tinubu, openly, you'll be shocked at what they might do when time for election comes.
Did you know there's a little difference there? Taraba moved to APC. Yeah. Wike is still in PDP, working for APC. There is a clear difference between the two instances, please.
Okay. All right, now let's move on to the next one we have on the list. CSOs to Jonathan, Nigerians need you, Daily Global. And this is somebody who was, demonized in the past during the, elections. Now, is he truly who we need going into the next election cycle? And does he actually now have that followership to be able to pull the needed votes if he decides to get on the ballot for 2027? That's how we choose.
No, you see, it's very interesting. When I saw that story, I was surprised because at the time, there was so much momentum about the possibility of Jonathan running. Then after some time, it feels that because at the time, a lot of people, even like people like Bala Mohammed, said he will subsume his presidential ambition should Jonathan, who happened to be his former boss, decides to run. So at the time, I think the campaign lost steam because at the time too, there was also this sentiment that power should still remain in the South because that was the original undoing of the PDP in 2023. So and who best fits that bill? If you are going to bring a fresh person, after Tinubu, it means the South will do another 8 years, most probably. And that was why people like Peter Obi promised to do only single term, even though he's eligible for two terms. So several power brokers in the North felt that Jonathan could fit that bill because he had done one term and he's eligible for one more term and nothing more. But I don't know what happened along the line. The campaign appeared to lose steam, and that was why people like Peter Obi actually, are throwing themselves up to contest. Because the sentiment remains that power should continue in the South, for the next 4 years. So I don't know if Jonathan is going to really, really, really be serious about contesting, because it's one thing to actually apply pressure on somebody. Like they say, you can take a horse to the river, but forcing him to drink. Will Jonathan agree to run? This is the question. It's a question only he and members of his immediate family can answer.
All right, now looking at, Jonathan, these CSOs will argue his tenure was probably when we had one of the best or safest, in the country with all this that has been going on, where we're attacking, the Boko Haram and all of that, and we need that back. But with the way things have evolved, economically, security-wise as well, is it the man that will be able to handle these issues?
The issue beyond just even Jonathan was vilified for over insecurity. Yeah. Late Buhari came into office riding on insecurity in the country. Yeah. It's just that almost 12 years down, 10 years down the lane, he's not gotten any better, as it were. They promised they made, because it's about a party, it's not about the presidential candidate. It was APC that made that promise, and they've not been able to solve it. But saying that Jonathan has a magic wand that will solve all our problems, I don't think it's realistic. There are a lot of issues involved. On which platform is he running?
That's another question.
PDP. Yeah. Which faction of PDP? Kakaaki-led or Wike-led? There are a lot of issues involved. Left for me, I think he should just bask in the euphoria that Nigerians are missing him. And some person, like, there was cartoons and all of that, and memes that say that Buhari had said when he was leaving office, we will miss him. And truly, some people at some point said Buhari was better than the present administration. So it's just that things seem to be getting worse. So we still want to go back to Egypt, as it were. But I don't think there's any one leader that has the solution to Nigeria's problem. It's a teamwork.
Okay, all right. And also we have Group to Senate, SGF illegally appointed investment tribunal chair. That's from the Authority newspaper.
Yes, that's my paper. And I think we ran a similar story last week. Last week or early this week, I've forgotten. But you see, the ground norm of any society is a rule of law. If you see the president, the governor, the appointments, service chiefs, everything, that's why you have laws. If you do not have laws, or if you have laws and you do not obey these laws, then we had better reverted to Hobbesian state of nature where life is short, nasty, and brutish. The laws are very clear. The National Assembly, I think one of our colleagues here, Leby, he runs an NGO and he's been in a campaign for seeing to due process being done in the appointment. We're not saying that, from the letter he wrote to the Senate, the group wrote the Senate president, they're not saying that the president cannot appoint somebody and change his mind. But then, if the president is changing his mind, he should clearly state that the president has changed his mind. And then you appoint somebody who is competent. Because the law says, I have to go and read the Securities and Investment Securities Tribunal Act. And the law says that anybody who's to be appointed the chairman and the CEO must not have spent less than 15 years post-call, cognitive experience. You understand? The question is Junaid, who is currently said to be the chairman, CEO, was he qualified in the first place to become the chairman? This is one question. Because now, the law says that you must be 35 years if you want to contest for the office of governor in Nigeria. I can tell you for free that if you are 34 years and 11 months and maybe 25 days, and you contest and you win by popular votes, I can go to court, or whoever contests again can go to court and challenge that person, because you have to be, for you to be able to vote, if you are not 18 on the dot, you cannot vote. It's very clear, because we keep talking about laws and laws and laws. You know, we want to repeal laws, we want to amend laws, but the laws we have, we're not even following these laws. And that's why Mali, the group, they've written the National Assembly. You know, it now remains to be seen what the National Assembly will do about that, because there's nothing wrong in saying that, okay, we made a mistake in appointing this man. You understand? Like I said earlier, the president reserves the right to hire and fire. But then also, why is the law stating tenure? Why does the law talk about tenure? You know, it's to protect the occupant of that office and also to give investors that confidence. Because if I'm doing business with you and I'm not sure if you'll be there tomorrow, you understand? I wouldn't be confident, you know, if I'm an investor. Because this is the capital market regulator. That's the tribunal. That's where all disputes arising from capital markets, this is where they go for adjudication. So imagine you're appointing somebody, you are swearing somebody as a judge of a court, and that person himself is not even qualified to be a judge in the first place. So what kind of justice do you expect from the appointment? This is it. So I think the pressure has now shifted to the Senate, to National Assembly. You know, they look at their laws. Was Aminu Junaid qualified in ab initio to be appointed, and then does the president appoint somebody, you know, then it's announced, then tomorrow somebody from the office of the SGF makes a counter announcement. You know, the offices are not very, very good. They're not good if you ask me, because people are reading, we're talking about win investors. People are reading, okay, what do we, if we come here and we have this problem, where do we run to? The regulatory agency. Can we be protected? So if there's no confidence, then all the noise about win foreign investors, you know, boosting the capital market will not work.
Okay.
So that's why, like I said, pressure is now on the Senate to actually investigate this matter. You know, you invite the parties. You know, the president of the SGF is human. They are liable to make mistakes. Okay. So if they made a mistake, there's nothing wrong to say, okay, when they made a mistake, you know, this man come back and continue from where you stopped.
Okay. All right, so I think we'll just leave it at that today for the papers. Thank you, Chicks Akuna, for joining us this morning. Thank you, Chizoba Ogbeche, for joining me this morning as well for the newspaper review. All right, so that's it for the newspaper review. We're going to be moving on to our first interview for today. And our first interview is on the Iran war and the global economy. We have Professor Ken Ife, development economist, joining us virtually this morning, and also Dr. David Kuranga, a US-based Nigerian policy affairs analyst. First and foremost, good morning, Professor Ken. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
And also to Dr. David Kuranga, good morning. And how's the US this morning?
It's just fine. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's start off with Professor Ken. Let's begin with the war itself. The declaration of a 2-week conditional ceasefire by the US and Iran, is this a signal of the end of the war, or do you see a return to hostilities after the 2-week hiatus?
This is not end of the war.
Okay.
This is just a ceasefire, and it's only a short term of 2 weeks. I don't think any of the parties is going to drop their guard, and I don't think any of the parties will be foolish enough to think that they have any advantage other than to quickly go and restock their barrels. And in fact, it's even more dangerous because Israel hasn't actually given up on the attack on Lebanon. In fact, they even made it worse. The heaviest attack occurred yesterday, and Iran is threatening that if that was to be the case, then they are going to return to their trenches. So it's a very tenuous case. America hasn't even shown any sign of withdrawing the amphibious forces, you know, so they're still probing. All that is going to happen is Iran is just going to allow some passage of some ships just to demonstrate goodwill. And then we just have to see how it goes. And I just hope, in fact, on one hand, the president was saying that, oh, there are semblance of a good way forward, but suddenly the next day, the story changes. You've seen the spokesperson hauling all kinds of hot water. So, it's not an easy thing, and we just hope for the best.
Thank you. All right, now let's go to Dr. David Kuranga. Do you also share the same sentiments as Professor Ken on this war not being, an end to it, and everybody, or that's the involved parties, should still have their, should they still have their guards up?
The United States has no interest in continuing the war, and they're seeking an end to the war. But the Iranians don't necessarily trust the United States. In addition, Israel is not cooperating with the U.S. mission to end the war. So they are acting against U.S. interests and against the will of the United States in continuing the conflict. This is not the first time that they have done this, and their actions are making the possibility of peace harder, because I don't think they necessarily have an interest in ending the conflict, especially how it is. As a result, there really is no ceasefire. Ceasefire is dead as we speak. The Strait of Hormuz is now closed again, and it isn't clear if this ceasefire will hold beyond the few hours that it held up to that point. So the state of Israel is the main party that is preventing peace from occurring, and whether or not the United States can rein in their Israeli ally is going to determine whether or not peace can occur. The Iranians are not going to be opposed to peace because, speaking, they've made their statement clear. Militarily, they have won this war up to this point. The casualties that they have faced was even less likely than even in the 12-day war, despite how long this was, because they evacuated most of their major buildings and centers this time around. So it was harder to kill large numbers of Iranians, even though they faced heavy bombardment and infrastructure losses. In addition, if you look at the revenues that the Iranian state has been making as a result of this war, they're making a lot of money. And even with the so-called reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is no longer a free passageway. So the Iranians are making a lot of money off of that, because they're now charging a fee and escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz for a fee. And that resulted in them making a lot more money, twice as much money they've made in the last month as they've made in previous years during the same time period. So the Iranians have economically, believe it or not, come up on the positive side in this, and militarily, they've stood their ground. So they're okay with ending this where it is. And the United States is losing a lot of resources on this exercise, and continuing it is just going to cause more problems for them. Only the Israelis want to see this continue.
All right, so going by your statement now, is it fair to say, as an assessment, that Iran is the one, with the conditions, it's a conditional ceasefire. So we agree that Iran is one who's given the most conditions to the ceasefire, or it's the U.S.?
They both have competing conditions. And the Iranian position and the U.S. position, most of the difficult issues they're aligned. It appears as though the team of the Vice President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Pakistan have come together and come up with a blueprint that is workable at this time.
All right, now let's go back to...
I think...
Okay, go on. I thought you were finished. Go on.
Yeah, I think that they both sides have put in an equal number of requests, and they've come to some agreement on most of them. Only a few sticking points that are left. I think they're supposed to have a meeting in Pakistan in less than a week. And given how these next few days go, we'll determine whether or not even that meeting holds. But if that meeting holds, and they come out with a If that meeting holds, I'd say there's more than a 50% chance that this war will come to an end. At least this phase of this war will come to an end. If that meeting does not hold, then it's unclear what will happen.
Okay.
But likely the conflict will continue.
Okay. All right, Professor Kerr, now both sides are claiming, victory in the war, especially the U.S. with the agreement that has been reached. And we can take words from the president where he threatened to, wipe out. We've taken words, from the U.S. where they said they will wipe out a whole Iranian generation. Is that not going to incite the Iranians going forward?
No, I think we can do all the talking, but the evidence is in the history. We've had different experiences with Afghanistan, naming it, just about so many conflicts all over the world where America will bomb and eventually pack their bags and leave. I don't think the Middle East is going to be any different from what we have experienced in the past. Yeah, there's massive damage. But as my colleague just pointed out, both parties are enjoying it. They're making money. America is making money, selling more arms. Now, Iran says we want reparations. They won't get it from America, so they will get it from the Suez Canal control. America has weighed the risk. The biggest risk Trump faces is dissent from the armed forces. And when the head of intelligence goes, others are not going to obey these commands, rather they will resign. Because they are thinking about the International Court of Justice, about war crimes. Those of them who are issuing the commands and doing that, they're all going to be charged, just as you saw in case of Germany and all of that. So it's not just charging the president. All of those who are in the giving the court, they will be charged. So they are very, very apprehensive. And that's why you see American public saying, but this is not American public. A lot of the ministers said, but this is not our war. This is not what we have sworn to lay our lives down for. No, that's not. They see it as an Israeli war. So that is beginning to hurt. And the momentum to move forces in, to bombard is receding. So then look at the nervousness in when the plane was shot down. You can see the panic. No, let alone when an armada is going to go in on the ground force. So that tells you that there is a limit that is being perceived from that end. Then the third one, of course, my colleague has just mentioned about the position of Israel. Israel wants to continue this fight to eliminate Iran completely as a potent force. And of course, they can only do that with America. That's why they restrained taking Iran on directly without American support, because America has the basis around it. And even though Israel has an arrangement, a defense pact, has an arrangement with Russia to avoid fighting each other, but I think it will push to a point where Russia will say, well, we have an obligation to defend Iran, even though they are not committing forces, but they are cooperating on satellite information and and they allow a passage through North Korea, through China, through Russia to enter into this. So, in all probability, these things have a limit. And you see Israel threatening a nuclear war, and then what did you see? You see a massive reaction from China. You don't threaten nuclear war, but you don't know how much nuclear resources are in Iran. It is a top secret. You don't know what they have. They don't have to make the bomb. They can buy the bomb. So we don't know how that will go. So there is, some of them can well be empty threats. So the whole thing is this: America is in the middle of any attack or conflict between Iran and Israel. If America says no, Iran war stops. But then that doesn't stop the conflict with Lebanon. That's a different story. So Israel is not happy that they were not factored in this negotiation, but they will be central to any negotiation to stop the fight in Gaza and in Lebanon. So that may well be another discussion. But who is going to force it? Again, the attitude of Iran may force it, because if Iran is now blocking it again and say, no, we can't have this, we have the understanding that all parties involved are involved. Now you are separate. No, we won't have it. That may well force the American president to call Netanyahu and say, "You got to stop this. You got to stop this." So we just have to see how that plays out. But it's not going to be an easy task. You can't just run one theory over all the complexes that are taking place. We haven't even talked about the Saudi Arabia and all the other Arab states, because the equation has actually changed from there. Look, in 1974, during the energy crisis, during the formation of OPEC, I remember, because I wrote an essay, because I was in secondary school final year, so we wrote an essay on OPEC, and I won the national essay competition. What was happening was Kissinger was threatening war when the OPEC was formed, threatening war. But then they eventually stopped by saying, okay, petrodollar agreement, oh, look, all right, so long as oil and gas are sold in dollar, so long as you invest that surplus of your dollar into our American treasury, then it's all right. And that was how they started. And then now they are providing the security. So the security was the exchange for dollarizing the global financial landscape. Now, that security is neither here nor there, because they gave them defensive security, which is still not insufficient, but no offensive capability. Now, the whole of that equation has been scuttled by the Iran war. And so they are feeling less safe. And they're now looking across the Asian Pacific for more security. They've already gone and signed Saudi Arabia with Pakistan, Mutual Defense Pact. So they are looking elsewhere. So this is no longer going to be the same. So American dollar dominance is under attack. And so are other things. But the thing is that people are actually saying, what is the interest America has? Because they are self-sufficient in energy, oil and gas. So why are they catapulting themselves interjecting themselves into all kinds of global conflict when they are self-sufficient? Okay. So that question is being asked. Thank you.
All right, thank you there, Professor Kerr. Now, let's go back to Dr. David now. We've highlighted that the U.S., the Iran, benefiting, from this war with U.S. arms sale, Iran, getting monies from allowing, ships past the Strait of Hormuz. But the entire world isn't benefiting from this. And we've seen it since the closure of the Strait, how oil prices have skyrocketed, globally and all. But prices eased considerably yesterday following the announcement of the ceasefire. What's likely to happen, going forward?
Markets are still going to be volatile. There's a lot of pressure in the United States going to continue to build for the president to bring this to an end. So I think that, given the fact that there is a possibility of peace, they're going to continue to lean in that direction in order to maintain the global economy. The U.S. is not gaining anything in this war. They're losing everything. They're losing their petrodollar system, because the GCC states are likely to look elsewhere, because the agreement was they provide security in exchange for them to sell all their oil in U.S. dollars. That is what is literally holding up the U.S. dollars system. They're losing in economic stability, because they need economic stability to regrow their own economy, which isn't happening. In addition, they're already in debt, and they're spending a lot of money on this conflict that they can't spend for the agenda of the president, which was to build up the United States economy. There is no interest here for the United States in this. The only interest is protecting their ally, who they are by treaty required to protect if they are attacked. So the U.S. in and of itself has zero interest in this, and the public is very much so against the war. So the president and his inner circle know that this is not in their interest. However, there are people within the U.S. government and in the legislature that are heavily in favor of this conflict, because Israel is in favor of the conflict. And one point that I would disagree with, I think members of the U.S. military are heavily in favor of this war, and they're the ones who advocated for it and convinced the president that it would be easier than it has been. And likely that realization that they were wrong is why you're seeing an exit of a lot of American military personnel. I know there's been some rumblings that they are refusing orders of the president to escalate. That is likely untrue. They are historically and presently more in favor of conflict escalation than the administration itself is, than the president and his inner circle is. So the vice president is known to be against this war, as is the director of national intelligence, and then her junior colleague even resigned publicly. One of the second highest intelligence officers in the country, Joe Kent, he resigned recently publicly, citing this war, opposition to this war, as his reason for resignation. The generals themselves that are being fired are not resigning because of their opposition to the war. It appears as though their offing is linked to some disagreement between them, and likely because their performance in this conflict has been and probably the advice that they gave prior to the conflict was inaccurate. So I think the stories that are going out are painting a picture that is completely. The American military establishment is not anti-war, and neither are they afraid of consequences after war. Okay. They are in favor of war, but they are being now restrained because the war is not going well for the United States at all. And the parties for peace, i.e. the vice president, who's now taking on the lead role for negotiations for peace, are taking over because militarily they're not getting the job done.
Okay. All right, let's circle back to Professor Ken now. Let's bring in Nigeria. Let's zero in on Nigeria. And in most parts, like Nigeria, we've seen the higher oil prices taking the toll on the people. Commodities prices, food prices, and all of that have really gone high. Now, with these prices falling in terms of oil, are we going to be expecting a corresponding fall in prices of commodities here in Nigeria?
We have every chance to escape further rises in the price of things. But first of all, let's deal with the geopolitics. How does Nigeria benefit from the geopolitics of this conflict? I think first and foremost, Nigeria has an opportunity to promote the Gulf of Guinea, West Atlantic Corridor, Bight of Biafra. So that becomes an alternative to Strait of Hormuz or to the Suez Canal. That's an alternative. So let's do this business here, and then it's risk-free. Not 100% risk-free because you could still have Niger Delta intrusion, but relatively. So that is one high point for Nigeria in terms of how do we take advantage of this. Then, of course, coming to the macroeconomy, prices have gone up. Sometime went to about 180, came down. Now it's just under $100. But it could go up again if the hostility begins. And if it's going to fall, I don't think that it's going to fall below $80, irrespective, until you're actually certain that the war has actually come to an end. And the issues are, how does that impact the economy? Obviously, the prices are going to keep rising. We have inflation. Now, there's a slight uptick on inflation from 15.06 to 15.5. So by the time you look at the full figure in the next 1 month, it's going to go up around 16%. So that is trending up slightly, not great, because we still have the agriculture dampening the entire picture. In other areas, the World Bank yesterday projected that we will come out with 4.2 growth over this year, not minding that is still discounting the conflict and the impact of the conflict. The supply chain disruptions, unless NNPC is otherwise foolish, it should be given crude to Dangote to process, because the law, PIA law, says prioritize domestic crude obligation. Dangote has capacity for 700,000 barrels a day, which translates to 20 shiploads. He only got 5, but it's now been promised to increase to 10. And then that means that a proportion of it will be paid in Naira, which is what the law says. The other proportion will be paid in dollar. Obviously, they've been charging $3 per barrel as a premium, but then the Dangote had to go to third-party marketers to buy it at a premium of between $6 and $18 per barrel, which is criminal. But nevertheless, we are seeing some shift and movement on the side of the NNPC. So the wisdom is give the crude to Dangote to process. We require 13 shiploads to maintain, to support the country. And as long as it is in the naira to crude, we will be the worst. Sorry, we will be the last to experience further rises in this area. And then he can use the surplus to export and earn more revenue. Everybody, even their fuel jet, the jet fuel, there's a huge demand for it. Phosphate, huge demand. They plan to earn $6.4 billion from phosphate and polypropylene. The demand is phenomenal. So give them the crude instead of subjecting this country to import bill and higher import bill that exacerbate our import dependency, higher maritime cost, insurance cost by importing things. Do the necessary, do the needful, and let us use our local capacity to process this product, export and defend the economy, defend the rise in the. So that is the clear-cut way the government has to operate.
All right, also back to Doctor now. Let's look at the global aspect of things and how it has affected, especially for you who's in the US, because I've seen people on social media, especially Nigerians, on social media complain about current gas prices, especially in the US, how much gas is going for and all. So how can things change with this fall in fuel prices?
I don't think fuel prices are going to drop significantly in the near future. And there's other issues too, because of the supply chain disruptions and the instability. There are issues with ancillary markets. The energy sector with LNG, liquefied natural gas. We also have issues with fertilizer production, and disruptions with that is going to cause a food production issue. So globally speaking, and this is going to have an impact on Nigeria, food prices are going to go up just because fertilizer is not as readily available, and farmers are not going to be able to produce the same levels of harvest globally as before. So food security is going to be a major issue for the entire world and food prices. In addition, pharmaceuticals, about half of which are supported by the petrochemical industry as well. There are a lot of pharmaceuticals that are going to become scarce. So that's going to become another supply chain ripple effect as a result of this conflict. Even if it comes to an end, the disruptions and the instability has already had a significant impact on these supply chains, and they will not recover in the next 2 to 3 months at all. We're looking at potentially 6 months or longer before all these supply chains can recover. So therefore, we're going to see disruptions in food production, pharmaceutical prices, and it could even become very, very problematic for a lot of the world, including countries like Nigeria, which import a lot of food. So what has to happen for all countries is they have to look at their need profile and pay very close attention to their need for food for their populations, and as well as their need for critical pharmaceuticals, because those are likely not to be as readily available.
Okay, all right. So also, still staying with you, what are the lessons for the world in just a short time, and how do we avoid this, going forward? What would you have to say to that?
Well, Iran has made their point. They are a global power to be reckoned with. At this stage in the war, they have won. The U.S., if they can get out right now, can claim they have won and save face. But in reality, they have not. So that's pretty much what it is. Iran has made their point, and then also going forward, there's going to be serious questions about this petrodollar system. And the U.S. obviously is exploring different ways to propagate their monetary system, which I think there are some avenues that they are exploring that may be beneficial. But it is unlikely that the petrodollar system is going to be a key, as significant of an aspect of that going forward, given what has happened here. So we are witnessing a transition on multiple fronts.
Okay.
for the United States.
Okay, all right. So also, Professor Ken, if you let us know what the world should learn and, going forward against such issues.
No, I just want to correct something. Nigeria has no business with rise in fertilizer prices and all of that. First of all, we're self-sufficient in phosphate because we have 14 phosphate blending plants receiving phosphate rocks from Morocco. We haven't even explored that capital. Then Dangote has met our demand for urea and we're exporting. So we don't have any issue about affecting our So, and even our demand is somewhat tempered by the conflicts, the widespread conflict. So that we are a net exporter of fertilizers. Then what was the other area? Overall, I think we could be better off than most African countries in terms of escaping the impact. But again, unless we tame that appetite for import, which is exacerbating our import dependency, then we are still going to be vulnerable to inflationary pressures coming from.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Professor Ken Ife, development economist. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And also to Dr. David Kuranga, US-based Nigerian policy affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on Kakaaki. I appreciate you, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
And have a fantastic Thursday as well, gentlemen. All right, it's that time where we'll go on a short break and bring you Kakaaki Social. Rena Obozege is standing by for that. Do stay with us.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Focus, Nigeria. It's a huge task, but we take it on.
The law. National Assembly is not doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria. It is America that is doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria.
Monday to Friday on Focus Nigeria, we identify the nagging issues.
So people put people in poverty deliberate misplacement of priorities and brought people on their knees to suffer.
We seek answers to the tough challenges.
And because of
the former president, what I know is that he has not turned his membership card. He has not been attending your meeting.
Leave that to us to deal with.
There's no shying away from the issues.
The system is held accountable. The leaders are accountable for the funds, for the resources that they manage.
No sitting on the fence.
The same thing that made you live where you are may confront you.
Focus Nigeria, 10 a.m., Monday to Friday on AIT.
Hello, everyone. Excellent morning to you. This is Kakaaki Social. It's my absolute pleasure, to be on this side of the studio this morning. It's Thursday, and what's on the streets of the social media? We'll begin with the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, that has sparked fresh political reactions with comments on presidency and leadership options from the Southeast. He was speaking on the need to address historical grievances in the region when Shettima expressed support for the emergence of a Southeast president, but he distanced himself from the candidacy of Peter Obi. He described Obi's supporters, the obedient, as delusional, while suggesting that other political figures from the region present stronger alternative. The vice president specifically mentioned Rochas Okorocha and Dave Umahi as more viable presidential options. Listen to him.
In a multi-ethnic, multi-religious polity like ours, nobody can bludgeon his way to power through deceit, lies, intimidation, threats, and blackmail. You get to power by building bridges, by reaching out. I am for the emergence of a Nigerian president of Southeastern extraction to heal the wounds of the civil war, But the modus operandi adopted by the delusional obedient crowd is condemnable, and it will take them nowhere. I believe even in the Southeast, there are better qualified people to rule this nation than Gringori. I dare to mention my friend, Owele Rochas Anayo Okorocha. We have Deb Umahi.
APC government think Nigerians are foolish people, because I don't understand how they look at Nigerians with all the Hausa spoke at primaries. You know, see shishi. Another reaction too coming from X is from this user, Onome. It says, you can already tell they are losing the plot. This was supposed to be a conversation about the betterment of Nigeria, but somehow it has turned into Peter Obi slander. That alone shows who they truly see as their only real opposition. If your strategy is distraction instead of solutions, then the discussions hold no water. Another thought also, MC Henry says, Shatima isn't saying the truth. Dave Umahi that wasted billions of naira on building an airport that is not functional till date. They only hold parties on the airport field. Okay, another thought, Moses Chuksagu says, audio vice president, he didn't see ice cream to sell, as he once called Professor Yemi Osibanjo an ice cream seller. You guys, you're not so nice on X, right? Well, away from that, prominent leaders of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, on Wednesday staged a protest at the INEC headquarters here in Abuja. And this is coming amid the leadership crisis, as you know, rocking the opposition coalition, which the movement has blamed on INEC's recent decision to derecognize the David Mark-led National Working Committee. The delegation is demanding an end to what they call a push towards one-party state. While that happened, those who say they are supporters of democracy were chanting, Tinubu must go. All right, let me see what you make of this. We cross over to X now. Cloud King says, Nigerians dancing to the same music that brought the calamity of APC. When they are ready to realize it's all the politicians that must go and not Jonathan or Buhari or Tinubu, then true redemption of the country will begin. For now, they should continue. Another user to Lee Joka Olawale says, instead to organize themselves and close all loopholes, they are busy shouting Tinubu must go. While Tinubu is busy consolidating his base, politics is not a game of emotion, neither is it game for the weak. Celebrating Tinubu there. This user, Zenvik, says, INEC just wants to start problems for the entire country. This protest is not needed, but INEC decided to bring up problems. I wish INEC well. We wish them well indeed, because what happens to them happens to about all of us. This Akwa Ibom first son, he says, look at our Independent National Electoral Commission, and this is how he spells INEC. As you saw, this was also printed in one of the flyers yesterday in Abuja. So I see 3 of the 4 colors of INEC here, of APC rather, and definitely the loud insignia of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu right there, the cap. So the C in INEC is wearing Tinubu's insignia cap, and then the broom, APC definitely, and as well the colors, APC as well. So those are your reactions from the space of social media to the ADC protesting. Well, away from that, a Washington-based lobbying firm, Von Batten Mottag York, says it will push U.S. authorities, including the President, Donald Trump, and members of Congress to impose sanctions on Nigerian officials. This follows concerns over Independent National Electoral Commission's derecognition of the leadership of the African Democratic Congress, ADC. Now, the firm acknowledges INEC's capacity to conduct credible elections, but they are warning that the Commission has shown weaknesses when faced with attempts by political actors to undermine the electoral process. It also stressed that the credibility of Nigeria's democracy could come under increased international scrutiny if electoral controversies persist, and is urging stronger institutional safeguards and accountability measures to restore confidence in the system. What you make of this, and just to add that the Turaki-led faction of the PDP, that team and the ADC met yesterday. We're not sure what the food on fire is or looks like, but suggestively, maybe the Turaki-led faction of the PDP will be joining the ADC to form even a more formidable opposition ahead of 2027. But let's take reactions to this U.S. firm asking that Nigeria or the U.S. Authorities sanction INEC officials back home. Oluwa Fisayo Ajayi says, so a lobbying firm hired by Atiku is now threatening U.S. sanctions on Nigerian officials because INEC followed a court order on ADC leadership. This is the same Atiku who has been running for president for decades. Now he wants America to punish our own people because things didn't go his will. Interesting. Look, INEC has many problems. We all know that. But if we start inviting foreign sanctions every time a political party loses a fight, then we have no sovereignty left. Let Nigerians fix Nigeria. We don't need Trump or anyone in Washington to fight our political battles for us. That's not democracy, that's desperation. Also in reaction to that, my playlist says, mortgaging our sovereignty at no cost through lobbyists. When the regrets come, we go day here. Foolishness in high places just to grab power, using the very emotional Nigerians. Make U.S. your government supervisor and expect growth. Again, foolishness in high places. So more reactions to this. G-Win says, those usual sanctions of confiscating asset, travel ban, etc. are not enough. Some of them need to be given the Maduro treatment. Oh, wow. Government officials that jeopardize the economy of the country, thereby sending citizens into poverty, deserve no mercy. And yes, so more reactions. Ghost St. Patrick says, White House, please leave Iran and deal with Nigerian politicians for us. He's crying. He says, if you need oil, we will supply you endless palm oil at subsidized rates. And someone says, even from Bayelsa, we're going to give you some more oil. But yeah, those are your thoughts right there. We leave that story and now we move on. The most dangerous weapon against the 2027 general elections may not be violence, but misinformation amplified by the media. That warning is coming at the 81st General Assembly of the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, Bond, where INEC Chairman Professor Juwash Amupiton of the Independent National Electoral Commission cautioned media organizations against amplifying falsehoods. So he stressed at that meeting that reporting unverified or misleading information could distort public perception and pose a serious threat to the credibility of electoral processes. The INEC boss urged broadcasters to remain professional, avoid bias, and provide equal and balanced airtime to all candidates and political parties. Let's see him from yesterday.
Yeah, to rise up against misinformation, disinformation, so as to protect the sanctity of our electoral processes. Concluding, the management of airwaves remains a critical component of the electoral integrity in Nigeria. As this paper has demonstrated, the broadcast media play a significant role in shaping the political discourse, influencing voters' perception, and finally determining the quality of democratic participation.
All right, his thoughts there. Then Segalink says they have lost it. That's the media. The media is a day there. They don't care about nation building as blinded by the lust after trends and clicks. They hunt for divisive and ignorant posts to showcase, even without checking its veracity. They are indeed the megaphone for chaos, and the truth makes no sense to them. Rational minds no longer see the need in talking to the media because they end up twisting your words and editing the video clips to set you up for rage baiting. All they want is the attention at the expense of someone else. Digital jungle justice. Coming from Sega Links. Suleiman Issa says it's easy to blame the media, but public skepticism usually stems from past experiences. Instead of worrying about what's being said, focus on providing real-time, verifiable results that leave no room for amplified lies. All right. St. Sam says now that INEC has set up the opposition to assumably self-destroy through a well-calculated ploy using judicial jargons as bedrock to instigate crisis within the opposition, they have now shifted focus to gaslighting the media houses, a subtle recommendation for media censorship. Clearly, it's either it's there or narrative or there is no narrative. This theory is nothing but devilish. And also, as well, Tico Bensi says, you haven't even conducted any election yet, but your credibility is already in the mud. Nothing independent about this institution. That's to the INEC boss, Amupiton, right there. All right, let's go back to 2018, where former President Olusegun Obasanjo's 2018 criticism of leadership is resurfacing, this time in the context of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Now, in the resurfaced video, originally directed at former President Muhammadu Buhari, Obasanjo warned against what he described as reinforcing failure, urging Nigerians not to reward underperformance with another term in office. Now, this statement being circulated comes amid concerns over economic hardship, with businesses shutting down and citizens grappling with rising costs. Now, even though the video wasn't for this administration, according to reactions, it applies to today as well.
The point is this: when you have an incompetent government, we are all victims. Giving excuse, we met many challenges. Now, if there are no challenges, then you wouldn't need to come. You come in because you know that there are challenges, and then giving us excuse that you have many challenges, that's why you haven't achieved result. And then you still want to go. The first lesson I learned in my military training is never reinforce failure. What we have now is failure, never you reinforce it.
All right, let's see what you make of this 2018 video coming back and aligning with today's realities. Issa Sadiq says, this is fact. Many businesses have, but he says has, crumbled as a result of T-Pain bad policy, adding more pressure on businesses through heavy tax without adequate provision like electricity and other basics to ease the challenges these businesses are going through. Another user from XBOD says, coming from someone that couldn't fix his hometown for how many years? He was head of state. Bloody hypocrite. Another thought too, Prof. Oluwagbemi says, Gbemiga says, OBJ is filled of wisdom, whether you agree with him or not. Before you campaign to become the president, you are obviously not oblivious to the problems, which means you have a solution to the problems in spite the challenges. You don't come out a few months later and cry challenges here and there. Another thought, also, Oloye says, Obasanjo has every right to condemn or appraise any Nigerian president. He set the pace for economic viability, which was maintained by his next two successors, till the APC got into power in 2015 and started giving excuses like government is rocket science. So that's what you make of it. Now, Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan has ordered government officials to cut down on convoy size and is directing them to travel in a single bus during official trips. Before today, this used to be her convoy. People have counted about 136 cars in her convoy. This is because of the rising fuel costs and supply shortages linked to the ongoing Middle East war. That's how a decision is coming. Now, fuel prices in the country have surged by about 1/3 since March, according to the energy regulators. So she was speaking yesterday during a swearing-in ceremony, and the president said only her essential convoy, including security and backup, would accompany her, while other officials must use a shared bus to reduce fuel consumption. So she's saying that if you're coming for an official event, all of you will gather and enter one moloi. She is moloi used to call it, one moloi. Yeah. No convoy, no private vehicles or anything, because we need to save costs from the rising fuel prices. This user sent letter says, Tanzanian president traveling in a convoy of 116 cars demonstrates why these African countries are underdeveloped. Madness. And then Femi says, even Protestant killers in other countries still care about reducing governing costs. If you remember, last year she was in the news arresting people who were protesting against her, jailed, and that's what that user is saying right there. Kingsley then says, Nigerian government will never, they will tell the people to endure while they drive with 1,000 convoys. And Lash says, even an ordinary fire service chief in Nigeria travels with a convoy, unnecessary consumption of fuel. Well, they've come out to say that, well, it's not all the cars in that convoy that belong to their controller general. There will always be an explanation why what you think you saw is not actually the picture. But to our final story for the day. A concerted effort is being made for former President Goodluck Jonathan to consider contesting the 2027 presidential election. This time, Coalition for Jonathan 2027, that's what they call themselves, a Nigerian youth, has extended an invitation to the former president, and they are citing his experience, democratic credentials, and asset, that all of those things are asset to Nigeria, and Nigeria could draw from them in a time like this. According to them yesterday, the former president's time in office and leadership style continue to resonate with many Nigerians who are concerned about the country's current economic and governance challenges. Let's hear them.
4 years, 4 good years, his own term. And his achievements are still there for us to see. Goodluck Jonathan is a confirmed replacement for the present messy situation we are facing in the country.
If I would turn my face to this too much crowd behind to ask, when was Nigeria safer? You will hear that a very loud and outstanding sound that Nigeria was safer during Goodluck Jonathan.
All right, let's see what you make. This time reactions are coming from Instagram. Cartel says, no difference between Jonathan and the current government. Most of you Nigerians, quick they forget sufferings. Now, why the country is poor rich like this, liked by 5 people, away from this reaction? Q_Mina says, he's not coming, leave him alone, try new people. And Tokbe Echo says, please, which excellency, please allow him to rest well. He did his best and left when the applause was loudest. Now he is a hero. Don't ruin his memory for those of us who believed in him. And final thought from Instagram as well, Nwachuku Nkechi says, President Goodluck Jonathan was widely regarded as a calm and well-meaning leader. However, many critics believe that his major challenge was a lack of strong political will, especially when it came to making tough decisions and enforcing policies. The country is tougher now, so he doesn't fit. Honestly, make him rest. Okay. Those are your thoughts right there to today's story, trending on the space of social media. Thank you so much for staying with us. I am Rena Obio, and we are AIT_online. I'll see you again tomorrow, maybe not. Until then, Be good.
My baba, they always say, for market, every day get your own wahala. Sometimes people go on scam you. But Baba say, no be by gra. You must cool down, dey sharp. Because with OPay payment, your money go enter sharp, no story. But inside market, anything fit happen. One day, we no see phone again. My baba remember OPay USSD lock, dial *955*131#. Baba press am, lock account. From market woman to driver, from small boy to big man. Now OPay, they protect people like us. My baba fit sell, press phone, collect POS, and still they teach me price. And when they don't tire am, go just tap OPay night guard. We no fear for this our hustle life. Now OPay be the people payment shield.
The assured prosperity government of His Excellency, Senator Douye Diri, and the good people of Bayelsa State heartily welcome the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, to the state on a one-day state visit and inauguration of 4 of our legacy projects: 60 megawatts gas turbine independent power plant at Elebele, 630-meter Angema Oporoma Bridge, a project that had been on the drawing board for over 60 years. The dualized New Yenagua City Road 1, linking Airport Road. Sagbama Ekremo Road. Date, Friday, 10th April 2026. We are indeed proud to host the President. Welcome, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. Welcome to the bosom of his own hospitality. Ekabo, Onua, Aloha, Do. Announcer, Honorable Mrs. Ebiwo Kokuobiai, Honorable Commissioner, Information, Orientation and Strategy.
Football lovers, movie lovers, family entertainment fans, get ready for something big because Star Times is giving you Over Jara. For a limited time, when you recharge for 2 months, you get upgraded to the next bouquet free. That's more sports, more movies, more kids shows, more entertainment at no extra cost. Over Jara. Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Welcome back to Kakaaki, the African Voice on AIT. I hope you enjoyed Kakaaki Social there with Renal Bozage. Now it's time for us to get into our second conversation for today, and it is on the rainfall or flood outlook. We have Air Vice Marshal Makube Iyamo retired here in the studio. Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. We're here again.
Yes, absolutely.
It's our season here.
So now, the rainstorm that rocked, the FCT and other parts of the country is a sign that the rainy season is here.
Yeah, it's here, and it's here very loud. Very, very loud. Now, before we go, my heart goes to the people who were lost in Jos and the Northeast. I pray the Almighty God will make them rest completely in His bosom.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Now, this rain that came wreaked havoc in the FCT. We saw what happened in Kubo with the bus station as well, the transport station there, where the roof, the building basically, was blown away by that wind. So is that a sign of what we should expect going forward during this rainy season?
Yes, thank you. You see, you must fix issues before dealing with the problems. So now we must be at the heart of climate actions. Otherwise, hindsight will teach us very, very bitter lesson. Let's evoke some history. When Abuja was set up in the 70s and 80s by Kenzo Sage, he's a Japanese. You know, Abuja was set up after Brasilia, with a little touch of Washington and France. Let's unpack the three prongs. Abuja was set up, first of all, as there must be symbol of national unity everywhere. Okay. Then, 2, it must be organized in zones. In zones, as you are seeing there now. Then 3, they will have the widest road in Africa, 4, the green spaces. Now, that's where I'm going to unpack. The other ones are not relevant here. The green spaces. See, at the beginning of the year, I'll be screaming that the action of the FCDA is going to be detrimental. It's going to be detrimental. Now, what you see, 2025 was the hottest year, sorry, the third hottest year in history. Okay. Bring that down. When you bring it down, what does it do? Now, for area, you know, Abuja is a trough with so much mountains. Yeah. So that is why those green spaces were very, very important. And if you tamper with them, you tamper with the whole ecosystem of Abuja. And that's what we're seeing now. Now, what are you doing? You see, all the green spaces, the carbon sink. If you are coming from African International Hotel, is that what they call that hotel? In front of the National Mosque, that space there, that's the carbon sink. Okay. It is deliberately designed to make the city livable. If you go in front of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that's the carbon sink. If you go, every zone have a carbon sink. In Metama, they have a carbon sink. If you go to, you are coming from Bega, all those areas around the National Stadium, it's a carbon sink. What do you do with carbon sink? It brings out the temperature of the city. Because Abuja is a trough, surrounded by hills. What you have not done is that, you saw early in the year, you saw the amount of snow, I mean. Then you also saw the temperature was very, very high. In Abuja, it became very unmanageable. What have you now done? You have offset the balance, the eco balance in Abuja. Now you have now created low pressure with very, very high temperature. What was happening in Abuja before was very, very high pressure with high temperature. It was managed because you have areas of carbon sink to take it. Now, those ones are being completely and deliberately destroyed. And you are going to have more. Low pressure, high temperature, what does it do? You are going to have what is called cyclone bomb. Cyclone bomb deals with very, very low pressure. And it takes down anything that is above a certain height along its way. The Kubo, you can imagine a wind. We are not in the area of hurricane and all. Yeah. Move a facility. Not only that, the barrack behind was also decimated. So you now ask yourself, what are we going to do now? Any remedial action for now? No, that's just on the environmental side. On the health side, you are going to have people coming down with renal diseases. Because the temperature as you go ahead, why did Kenzo Sange deliberately put in the green areas? So that the temperature will be managed. Because if you don't do that, your water dehydration is so high. When it's so high, you are going to have pressure on your kidney, and it's going to go there. And 2, other areas that are there is that I would have believed that we would have dealt with other problem of Abuja, like the sewage. Yeah. And the refuse that is everywhere. Once it rains in Abuja, you just come out, you hear feces smelling. I should have thought that is the area we will face. Because if you come in, if a new person is coming into Abuja, you are not proud. You see this, what do you call it, leather bags all over the place. How do you solve that? When we were growing up, there were tap water everywhere to drink. You understand? So if you have public water running, when I was going to school, you just go to any tap water, put your hand there and drink. There will be no need for sachet water or those. No, you will not have any need. If you have water actually running. Now, the whole of the country now, you have only 11% that have access to potable water. 11%, and only 4% have pipe water coming into their houses. So going back to what you have said, we're going to live with this problem. It's going to be worse. This is just the introduction. This is the signature. More will come. It's going to be very, very devastating. Most of the buildings, if you know your building, my garage that was built over 10 years ago, because of this wind, had it taken off? I said yes. Oh. We started seeing the effect.
So with this current
yesterday, sorry, 2 days ago, it's going to destroy a whole lot of things because we have tempered with the balance of nature, and nature does not abhor vacuum. So it must take its pound of flesh.
All right, now with all of this we've seen, has the federal government or the FCT administration actually put a warning, to residents of the FCT and across Nigerians on what to expect as well?
You see, early in the year, I wrote a paper. Say, look, this deliberate destruction of the green spaces is going to have adverse consequences on the FCT. Those were there to make the temperature of the FCT not to go to 4 degrees centigrade, which is what the world is fighting against. Don't forget the Paris Agreement, which is a conglomerate of countries. Global action to fight climate change. I put on it by saying it is going to be very dangerous. Apart from the destruction that it's going to bring, the health consequences is going to be very bad. I expected that, okay, they will take it from there. I say, look, this is what we are going to do. You see, once you have destabilized nature, there's no remedy. There's no remedy. You see, what you now do is that most of those trees that they are destroying now have been there for 200 years. 200 years. And you see, green areas are not that you just planted flowers today. No, they are deliberate. They are deliberate. When you plant the tree, the size of carbon absorption depends on the trunk of the tree, as it's going to take it in. So are you going to get a tree that have lasted about 200 years, that you just took down for development? There's no, see, the effect of the development can never equal the destruction that we are going to face. Being of climate change, that we are going to face. You see, what is now happening is that you have the earth. The seasons are determined by the earth tilting to the sun or thereabout. If it's tilting, if the northern hemisphere is tilting to the sun, you are going to have summer there, you have cold in the other side. Also reverse. So because of the slow movement of the earth around the sun now, you have more tilting now. And the temperature is going to be very high. And how do you offset it? These are the things. And even the water now, okay, assuming the water to cushion it, it's not even available. It's not even available. Most houses in Abuja now they don't have water. So how are you going to solve it? So, like I said before, this one is just an eye-opener.
Now, you talked about the green areas, being taken off. I remember, I think late last month or middle of last month, there were complaints about places like, Jabi Park and all converted, here in the FCT. Now, and young people going to protest about it. So what's the solution, especially apart from here, in other parts of the country where green areas are not really being focused on? Like we see people complaining, for some example, now in Lagos, a lot of trees are not being planted, trees are being taken off. So these green areas now, what can be done to be able to remedy this situation, to stop, the removal of green areas across the nation?
Give it to Lagos. If you go to Ikeja, Koyi, and all, you still have those areas carved out. They are there. They are there. The governor somehow is very friendly to the ecosystem, very, very friendly. And the commissioner for environment is on top of the issue. You see, the Jabi Lake is an artificial lake. All this one we are geared towards regulating the temperature of Abuja. They were not there because of beauty or fancy. No, they were deliberately put there to control the temperature. Do you understand? That hence the centrality of that lake. If you are now distorting it, you are creating an unlivable future for Abuja, which is what you are doing now. Now, again, too, that is the prime purpose. But the other second purpose was people going around it, which was very good. See, administrations have come since 1976 or 75. They've come, and always, before the lake was put there, they've looked at it. Okay, it serves the use of the youth. They all go there, go and run around it. No, taking it out is penny wise, pound foolish.
Okay.
There's no need for that.
Okay.
What subsequent administration did, if they wanted land or area, they developed new areas. Abuja is so wide, up to Gwagwalada. Develop new area with facilities and make sure that it is existing there. You don't go and disrupt nature because it's going to react.
Okay. Now, across the country, every year we see flooding. We see videos, different parts. People lose their families, their land, their homes, they're displaced. But why is it that we never really learn lessons and try to correct that across the country with these yearly flooding issues that we have?
You see, when I started, I said, look, fix a problem and don't deal with the consequences. That was the name. Everywhere there's flooding in Nigeria, I've been there. Everywhere there's IDP camp. We have about 3.7 million IDPs in Nigeria. Then we have 3,600 spots that they are in. Every year, you see, IDP is a line item. It's a line item for ministries in Nigeria. So countries across the world, they are closing IDP camps. Okay. Now our own is coming out. Every year we budget for them. We say, okay, in anticipation, IDPs will come, so we have to budget for them. When I serve in Nema, not only here, you see, if you go to other countries, the quotas you saw today that house IDPs, when you come next year, you are not going to see it. They've settled these people. They've taken them to where they want to. That's why durable solution is very important. Durable solution, take them to where they are, create a new place for them, or make them remain where they are, make it habitable. You see, flooding, because of the way the climate is going on. You see, early in the year again, the World Economic Forum, if you know the workings of the World Economic Forum, they don't discuss anything about the economy. Since 1971, when it was set up, even in 1987, when it was readjusted, for the world to be able to participate in it, they don't discuss it. But they warned the world that climate change, unlivable weather, is the third most dangerous thing in the world. Now, you now have extreme weather and national security being very hot buttons. Very, very hot buttons. Hot buttons on national security. Before, if they pursue you from here, you run and enter the forest. And forest is no longer like that. And the most mobile people, one of the most mobile people in the world, are from Nigeria. They just go everywhere. What is responsible? Climate change and insecurity. So, if you flooding now is now journey to it, you know the Mokwa flood. How did we deal with that? 3 billion. At the end of the day, each person will get about, the identifiable people will get about 660,000. Now, what is the price of Kakaaki and Pep? The one from Maiduguri the previous year was not properly there too. So we have to prepare. It's a concerted effort. A service-wide, nation service-wide action. It goes beyond prediction. No, even if you predict, the extreme weather is coming to make rubbish of it. So the whole idea is to be fully prepared. Those that were in IDP camp before, we don't need to go and add to them. Remove them and let go. Bring in experience. Bring in experience.
Now, for this year, are there already identified high-risk areas for flood in the country, and what's been done about it?
The high-risk areas does not change.
Okay.
Ironically. You see, the Three Gorge Dam in China, it takes about 39.3 metric kilometers of water. That's one of the largest dams. What does it do? Agriculture, control flooding, and do a whole lot of things. That's what it does. Now here, what do we do? You see, the Dashin Hausa Dam, that is on the river Benue. Meanwhile, we are just at the beginning of the rainy season. It has not started. So the flood areas are known. Lokoja, Benue, and all of them, they are all known. Now, we need, if we are going to solve it now, we need a state-sponsored evacuation, not the one that people do by themselves. No, state-sponsored housing that these people will move to. Now, when flooding happened in Kenya and Ethiopia, Morocco and Mozambique, you saw how the state came in. In Ethiopia, so they even brought in their military. So it is designed, highly designed, because you put in people there. When they finish, like I told you, durable solution, you take them out and they go to their places. No, we need to we need to preparation. We need to scale up our preparation because all of us are in election mode now. No, is it not the same people that are going to vote? And the weather has told you how menacing it's going to be this year. So you don't need to take it for granted.
Okay. All right, so I think we'll just have to leave it for today here, Air Vice Marshal, because this is a conversation that I think will progress at a later date. Since the rains are here, concerns have been raised by you, and I'm sure relevant authorities are listening and watching us, and we'll be able to continue that. So thank you so much, Air Vice Marshal Akube Yamu, retired, for joining us this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, so it's time for us to go on a short break and bring you State of Human Rights. Do stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
Episode of State of Human Rights on Kakaaki, the African Voice. I am Omoyo Ogbaki. Last week, we began our special retrospective journey into the 30-year history of the National Human Rights Commission. We explored its foundation, its adherence to the Paris Principles, and highlighted its core functions. Today, the journey continues. In part 2 of this series, we move from the Commission's mandate to its direct action. We will begin shining a spotlight on how the NHRC has actively executed these functions on ground and intervened to protect the most vulnerable citizens across the country over the past 3 decades. Let's dive right into it.
The then Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Chief Bola Ige, also testified to the achievements of the Commission at that time.
If the National Human Rights Commission succeeded in any way during Abacha regime, it was due large to the persistence and the hard work which Mr. Justice P.K. Mokip and members of this commission put into the affairs of that commission.
One expects that with the return of democracy in 1999, the NHRC's tasks will be made easy in a freer society and more enabling environment to thrive. But democracy came with its own challenges, which is evident because of the weak laws that set up the Commission. The Commission has seen 5 different governing council and executive secretaries since 1999. Some were removed abruptly, without explanation, a reminder that even in democracy, independence can be fragile. Due to the weak law that established the NHRC, the Commission remains vulnerable as seen in the incessant change of its leadership, but each leadership phase added something different to the Commission's growth. Professor Tabiu and his team worked tirelessly to deliver on the mandate of the Commission despite its limitation at that time. Their efforts led to the Commission's first A status accreditation by the International Coordinating Committee of National Human Rights Institution, ICC, now known as Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institution. Under his leadership, the Commission worked hard to own its buildings so it could operate more independently. He ensured that the zonal offices in Lagos, Kano, and Maiduguri in Borno State were purchased instead of rented. In the same spirit and in line with the Paris Principles, the land where the National Human Rights Commission headquarters now stands was acquired during his tenure. This was done so that the Commission could build a permanent headquarters and stop paying rents, which often weakens institutions' independence. Council meetings were held in different states across the country, and the Human Rights Forum were organized to discuss the major issues facing Nigeria at that time. Capacity building was a key priority under Tabiu's administration, since many of the staff were employed at inception had little or no experience in human rights work. Several of them were sent abroad to learn from established human rights institutions. However, flaws in the founding law soon became obvious. The Commission did not have full operational autonomy. It lacked strong investigative powers, and most importantly, it was not truly independent. These weaknesses became clear when Professor Tabiu was removed from office in 2000, just 4 years into his 5-year term, with no explanation given. Dr. Buhari Bello built on the foundation laid by Professor Tabiu and helped expand the Commission's presence across Nigeria. His tenure, the NHRC strengthens its partnership with civil society organization, and the early skepticism created the Commission's creation in 1995 began to fade. Organized the Commission for public human rights in Nigeria, bring together members
of human rights promotion and protection in Nigeria. And I want to also emphasize this is the first time in Nigeria that we're having a parliamentary forum on human rights for the promotion and protection of human rights in this country. It has never been done before. As such, it is a historical occasion, and that we should always document it as such. Today we are here in the National Assembly to discuss issues on human rights and also how to promote, protect human rights in Nigeria. As you have heard from the Chairman of the Committee on Human Rights, this will form part of the National Action Plan on the promotion and protection of human rights. The National Human Rights Commission, being the apex institution for the promotion and protection of human rights in this country, is very happy to be associated with this endeavor.
Bello also signed the International Criminal Court Convention on behalf of Nigeria, showing the country's commitment to global justice and accountability. This boosted Nigeria's reputation internationally. He played a key role in pushing for the amendment of the NHRC Act, which was eventually passed in 2010. Under his leadership, the Commission conducted the first nationwide audit of all prisons in Nigeria. The findings contributed to reforms still shaping Nigeria's correctional service today. Bello hosted for the first time the meeting of the Network of African National Human Rights Institutions. At this meeting, the NHRC became a model for other African countries, and shortly afterwards, Nigeria's NHRC again earned an A status from ICC. He also championed the successful advocacy for the passage of Child Rights Bill signed into law in 2003 by President Olusegun Obasanjo, which domesticated the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Bello continued the legacy left by Professor Tabiu by complementing the NHRC headquarters on the land earlier acquired at number 19 Aguyi Ironsi Street, Maitama, Abuja. Today, the main auditorium is named in his honor, the Buhari Bello Auditorium. Known for his strong voice and refusal to compromise human rights standards, Bello was fearless in his approach. Ultimately, like his predecessor, he suffered from the weaknesses in the Commission's founding law. The lack of independence and security of tenure also affected him, and he was removed from office during the first year of his second term, again without any clear explanation. This resulted to serious agitation by both civil society organizations and the international community. The commission was downgraded to B status by the ICC. For the first time, the commission came under the leadership of a woman, Mrs. Kehinde Folashade Ajoni, the only female to serve as the substantive executive secretary. Because she had previously been a member of the governing council, she understood the commission's operations and settled quickly as the CEO. She facilitated the commission's relocation to its permanent headquarters at number 19 Agui Ironsi Street, Maitama, Abuja, a building later commissioned by President Olusegun Obasanjo. Ajoni was deeply committed to capacity building. She ensured every staff member received specialized training and mandated that knowledge gained must be stepped down to others. Staff welfare was also a priority for her. She secured approval for the first ever protection allowance for employees of the commission. She spoke boldly about the deplorable state of the nation's prison at that time.
One of his strategies has been to work with the prisons and the police. The state of the prisons is quite deplorable, and we will continue to make noise about this. In considering the budget of the prisons for next year, it is important that this be taken up. We are also partnering effectively with the Nigerian Bar Association at the national and state level to continue to render pro bono services, which is free to all persons in conflict with the law who shouldn't be in the prison custody.
During her tenure, like her predecessors, she was abruptly removed and sent back to the Ministry of Justice. This action led to more agitation from both the international communities and the civil society.
That was the second part of our ongoing retrospect series on the 3-decade journey of the National Human Rights Commission. Our series continues next week, so be sure to join us for that. But before we go, a quick reminder. If you or anyone you know has been a victim of human rights abuse, do not suffer in silence. You can reach out to the NHRC directly by dialing the toll-free number, which is 6472. Once again, that number is 6472. Until next time, I am Omoyo Baki. Bye for now.
All right, I hope you enjoyed State of Human Rights there, and do also reach out as well for those of you who have, had their rights, trampled upon. Well, we've come to the end of the show for today. Thank you so much for watching Kakaaki on Africa Independent Television. My name is Chukwuyenum Onwoka. The show will return tomorrow for the Friday edition. Catch you tomorrow. Bye for now.